talking about friendship. Who here likes friendship? I know, we all do, we all do. Kat Vellos is going to share with us wonderful strategy around how to move some of these connections that we have into real friendships that count. Kat Vellos is an author of a wonderful book that we might just have a copy for you all. Yes, so if you are at a spot, books, reading. Literature. If there is not a book at your spot, we do have enough for everybody, so do not fear. We will make sure you get one a little bit later. There is a book signing. But for now, let me get her out here. Kat Vellos is a designer turned connection expert. She is, of course, the author of the book in front of you, We Should Get Together. It has resonated across more than 100 countries. She's been featured in the New York Times and NPR, and she is here with us today. Please welcome Kat Vellos to the stage.
Hey, everyone. Clap for yourselves. I am so excited to be in a room full of people who bring people together. As you heard from the title of my book, We Should Get Together, I care about bringing people together, and I released that book on January 2020, which as I hear from the empathetic thank you moans of appreciation, that was a year that we could not really get together, right? I was like, let's solve the loneliness epidemic. Let's get everybody together. And they were like, let's keep everybody at home and make them not hang out. So that is the opposite of today, which is a day where we absolutely can get together and we can celebrate the power of getting people together, not only to reverse the loneliness epidemic, but to help them experience community in all of your communities and to really improve the social health of their life. So I'm very, very happy to be here with you for that. I'm very curious also to know, I've been hanging out today, and I'm curious to know, like, what are some of the communities that y'all are running? I heard earlier we had a little bit of DevRel. Just shout out a few of, like, what? Cybersecurity? What else? Nepali, Polytech? FinTech, what else? More cyber and what? Queer family building. Awesome, awesome, awesome. I love the variety. I love just thinking of like how many different people are represented by all of you being here in this space. I have run a number of communities over the last lot of years. My first community that I started was in 2001 because I've been alive for centuries. And I've run communities that were online and IRL and a little bit of hybrid. And everything that I learned over running communities for all those years, plus what I learned researching and writing a book about friendship, has fed into what I'm going to share with you today. Because what I really want to have you remember is that whether your people are in your communities because they do want to have more fintech or more Nepali community or more queer family building, they're joining your community because they want more of that, but they're also joining your community because they want friends. And they want friends who care about that thing that they care about. Most of the people who come to me for connection coaching, particularly around building friendship, building community, they say a very, very frequent thing to me. They say, Kat, I really want more friends in my life. And I really want friends that I have stuff in common with. It's usually the first thing they'll say. They're like, I really want friends that I have stuff in common with. And I'm like, okay, like, let's talk about your life. Let's talk about the opportunities you have for connection. And another thing that's really surprising is that most of them will tell me they're a member of at least one community already. If they're not, I usually suggest they try that, among many other strategies. But what's surprising to me, and maybe to you, is that people still come to a connection coach for help with friendship, even though they're in communities. They're in clubs, they're in meetups, they're in groups, but they're walking away from those spaces saying, I wasn't able to make friends there. And to me, that's a lost opportunity. And it's also a big opportunity that we have to help them make the friends they're looking for in the communities that they're coming to, like yours. So I want you all to embrace your role as a connection concierge among the millions of other things you're already doing as part of your job. Because when folks come to me for this kind of connection, I want them to realize that they're already doing one thing really right. And you all are doing something really right, which is when they say they want stuff in common and they've come to your community looking for that, what we're really talking about is compatibility. We believe we will be compatible with people that we have something meaningful in common with. And this is really good because compatibility is one of the 4 seeds of connection. I know you're all going to get a copy of the book if you haven't already, and when you read it later, you'll see in the introduction I talk about one framework that I discovered through my research, which is that there's 4 elements that make a friendship most likely to thrive and to stick over time. So this is also about you. If you want more friendship in your life, this applies to your communities, but also applies to you if you want more friendship. Compatibility, of course, is a part of having stuff in common. And it's one of the 4 things that we can water and fertilize whenever we want to have more connection. And with that, hold on. The good news is that you already have this checked off. By whatever the focus or theme or topic of your community is, they already have this. And that is a huge benefit because you're starting with a leg up to help them make friends faster. I'm going to tell you about other things that you can do to foster more compatibility and to build that so that it's easier and faster for them to make friends in your community. One of those things has to do with introductions. So I have a blog post on my site related to introductions. It's one of the most kind things that we can do to help someone build communities, introduce them to somebody else. But it's really important to me. The very, very first step with this kind of thing needs to be an opt-in. Both parties need to be open to the introduction. I have a blog post on my site that talks about the best way to make an email introduction. The title is From Fuck to Yes, the email introduction method that we all need to start using. Because when you get a bad one, you're like, oh no. And when you get a good one, you're like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. And so when you think about doing introductions, make sure that both parties are open to it, whether that's existing members or people coming in, similar to what CMX did for us this time, where they said, before you come to Summit, would you like an introduction? And the people that we got introduced to also had to opt in. Because if you've introduced somebody to someone who doesn't want it, it's not going to go anywhere. And it's going to feel kind of yucky for the person who didn't want it and feel like they just got a ding-dong doorbell dash where someone's like, ding-dong, here's a person. Now you figure out what to do with them. And that doesn't feel great. So we want to make sure that it's an opt-in, either before they join the community or upon arrival. They get that really warm introduction so they don't walk in feeling like it's a room of strangers, right? Just like we had here. And also shout out to Piper, who was one of my email introductions before we started. We had a nice video chat before we came to Summit. So along with that, we also need to think about how the members who are coming to your community are often wondering this kind of stuff related to compatibility before they show up. They want to know who else is in this space that wants to talk about that thing that they geek out about and have this really curiosity in. They also want to know who else cares about the same things as them, right? They also want to know, like, who else can I learn from? Who has answers to the kinds of questions I have? And who else here lives near me? Who might I be able to make a real-life connection with face-to-face? And they also want to know who else is here that wants to make friends. And when they walk into a community and they don't have any clarity about that, it can feel extremely intimidating. Because it's like, I can stand here and see all of you out there on the stage, but I really don't know who wants to connect in the same kind of ways that I might want to connect. And what a lot of community managers will do is, in a very encouraging and cheerful way, they'll say, hey, we have an awesome member directory, and it has people's bio and their picture, and we have DMs. Feel free to reach out to anyone here. Make some friends. And what happens is, when you have a whole bunch of bios and pictures and some DMs, what you really have is LinkedIn, right? And LinkedIn, as lovely as it is not really a community, and it's also not a collection of friends. What we need to do then is to think about how we can reduce some of that ambiguity and create some momentum through some meaningful intros that help people actually bridge that gap. I know that earlier today, Alexis from Circle talked about using AI agents to help introduce people to each other. I think that's a great idea. I'm also a person. So I'm also like, could we have humans, like a welcome committee, do that work of introducing people with a really high momentum connection moment? It's like, hey, I'm introducing you because you both opted into intros, and you're both interested in this, this, and this, and this, this, and this. You'll probably have a great conversation about X, Y, Z. Here you go. So they know what to do with it, and they can take that momentum. Another benefit with this is if you have cohorts, cohorts are primed for this kind of connection because they're going to start and stop at the same time. But with rolling open enrollment, which is also, I think, probably the majority, it's also really, really special to do intros like this across people who are long-term members and people who are brand new. Because something that can happen, I've seen it happen in other communities, which is sometimes long-term members, old-timers, they get cliquey and they don't really want to meet a bunch of new people. But if you have a norm of saying we're always going to be welcoming to new people, it makes a really inclusive space. And another thing that will happen here sometimes is community managers will say, hey, as part of joining the community, part of your onboarding, please make sure to post a self-introduction in our introductions channel. It's a great way to show yourself to everybody else who's here. Lovely idea. And for many people, extremely intimidating to just, you want to be accepted and you have to bare yourself to the whole community and you don't really know what you're going to get back from it. But if you incentivize that by saying, if you post an introduction in the introductions channel, we'll give you 2 high-quality intros to 2 members who would like to talk to you, right? And so then you're more likely to get them to complete that task of making that self-intro post, and they get something back out of it as well, which might speed up the pace at which they complete that step. So those are some ideas for increasing our compatibility, which is, again, just the first of one of our 4 seeds of connection. And all of these, you don't have to do all of the dozens of ideas I'm going to share with you today. You can just take a few that work for you and that you may want to add to your process. The second seed of connection has to do with frequency. Curious, how long do you think it takes to go from being a stranger to being a casual friend or a good friend? How much time do you think that takes? Just shout out some numbers. 40 minutes? 5? 2 years? 6 months? 4 years. I love it. Well, a very lovely researcher named Dr. Jeffrey Hall at the University of Kansas actually quantified this. Got some Kansas here? He wanted to find out how long does it take to go from a stranger to a best friend. And what he found was that in order to go from a stranger to a casual friend, it took about 50 hours of time hanging out together. To be a good friend took about 100 hours, and to become a best friend took about 200 hours of time together. And it can't be spread out over the whole rest of your life. It can just be 200 hours over 20 years. It has to happen within the first several months of knowing each other. And he found that if you go 4 months between the minute you meet somebody and when you hang out with them again, it is unlikely that a friendship will form. Asterisk, unless you get a compressed amount of time together in the future like that. Bless you. And so when you think about the minute when someone joins your community to when are they going to connect with someone here that they have that high compatibility with, to when are they going to develop any kind of frequency where they can build up that time, that connection time, you might want to think about, well, what are some ways that we can get people spending time together, either in our app or outside of our app, so that they get that time to foster that friendship? There's a lot of ways that you can do this. One of those is to think about affordances for frequent participation. And that doesn't just mean we have to just make them be online all day long. That's not necessarily what we mean. But there are ways to have rituals. So Alexis talked about this earlier with saying, can we have some live events? Can we mix up our asynchronous chat with some live stuff? Can we have some theme days? Can we have some member-led events? There's ways to have a variety of ways to build frequency with each other. And something that I've noticed as a community leader as well is that when people spend too long in receiver mode, something changes in their psychology. They start to view your community as a service that is for them instead of a community that is co-created by them. I see some serious head nods. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. It is true. And so we want to think about how to get them out of just lean back receiver mode into participatory co-creation mode. And by mixing up the ways that they do that, you're more likely to get them, again, those hours together, as well as the deepening of those relationships. Something I also advocate for in my friendship coaching and in other community building is to give people a variety of ways to communicate with each other. Our friendships will be stronger when they don't only live in one mode of communication. So if you and I are friends and all we ever do is text message, that's fine. But we'll probably have a stronger friendship if we text and we send some voice notes and we hang out in person and we do some phone calls and we have, some video memos. Like different things like that are more likely to make the friendship feel more real and more alive. And the higher fidelity the mode of communication, the faster the bonding will happen. So I think it was Jono earlier who said that he'll record a Loom video, right? It just takes a minute. But when you send a video message to someone, it feels so much richer and more alive than just sending a few sentences in an email or DM. So think about ways that you might have people share their connection through a variety of communication methods. And something else that is important here that I really appreciate, I think it was Gianna talked about earlier, is that we don't want to confuse lots and lots of engagement, lots and lots of activity with meaningful engagement, right? Sometimes we see a lot of this and we think, oh, this means our community is alive, this means people are really connected. And that isn't necessarily the case, because tons and tons of one-off interactions doesn't necessarily lead to depth. It may be the case that the thing that will help your folks feel most connected is actually something like this. They have a few people that they're super compatible with, and they have multiple modes of contact with that smaller group of people within your community. So think about the way that you are measuring engagement, and think about which one is the better match for the type of meaning you want people to feel. Because engagement is going to be the most meaningful when it's with people that help us feel seen and known and understood, not just a ping here and a ping here, and they're both strangers to me at the end of the day. So see how you can build repetition, see how you can build that kind of depth, and understand that condensing that repetition is something that's going to lead to more friendship for them. Okay, so our third seed of connection is proximity. Who else is here in the Bay Area? I'm here in the Bay Area. Oh, that's nice. We got about a third hands. I'm actually super impressed with the number of folks who came from farther away. So there's a lot of social science research that goes into the fact that when we are proximal to people, it is just naturally easier to build a closer relationship because it's going to be easier to do the maintenance activities of seeing each other, provided that's not your neighbor who plays loud music at 2 in the morning. Sometimes that's the wrong kind of proximity. But thinking about ways to help your members create some IRL connection time with each other. I love what Pat said earlier about how having member-led events and member-led chapters, you don't have to be there. And if you're worried or their members are worried of how do we have a good gathering? We've never done this before, we're nervous. You can give them a guide like the one Paz showed of here's how to host a great event. Here's a good timeline. Here's some good template text. Give them some tools that help it be easier for them to take that step of hosting an IRL meetup or gathering. Something I've heard people say is that they want to host a gathering, but they're worried that when people come together, they might misbehave or forget the code of conduct, things like that. They're worried about having to kind of police other people's behavior. And so make sure that they know that sharing the code of conduct and that attending an IRL meetup, the code of conduct that applies online also applies offline. So affirm that to anyone who's hosting or to anyone who will be attending those as well. If they have those warm intros to the people that are in their city or in their region, in their cluster of geography, it's going to be a lot easier for them to do those member-led IRL gatherings. And when those happen, I encourage you to look for ways to highlight and celebrate that inside of the community. Share those pictures, share those kudos. Maybe there's prizes and rewards. Incentives matter to take that risk of trying something new. And when people see that you will be supported and you will be celebrated for it, it will make it easier for them to take that risk of pulling people together, doing a gathering. What else did I want to say about that? Oh, see, this is why. I'm really good at writing. I'm a writer. I'm not going to memorize everything. And my notes are not in the monitor, so that's why I don't want to forget anything. One thing I wanted to make sure I told you is that I have a free guide on my blog. It's called How to Turn an Online Acquaintance into an IRL Friend. And you can share that guide with all of your members. It's free on my website. You can use it in your own life if you want to. And it has templates, it has scripts, it has a lot of supportive information to help people make that leap. And one of the things I've learned in my coaching is that the steps that we take to make a friend, in and of themselves, are usually not that hard. So for example, if I am online acquaintances with you, and I want to invite you to hang out, I might say, hey, what's your name? Hey, Trey? I might say, hey, Trey, I really love the posts you've been making lately. I really resonated with them. Also, you have a great sense of humor. I would love to meet up and go for a coffee or a walk with you one day if you're open to it. And I might have the courage to send that if there's some kind of badge on their profile that says, I'm open to making friends. And so I would send that. In and of itself, that seems simple. But it is often not simple because courage is hard, and fear of rejection is real. So whatever you can do to make that courage easier and to affirm ahead of time, like you're probably not going to annoy this person by sending that message because they have a badge or something on their profile that says, I'm open to invitations. You can invite me to things. I want to make friends here. It's going to make it easier for that courage to feel more available to me, and I'm going to have the vulnerability to take that risk of reaching out, okay? Thanks for the nods. I'm glad that worked. So give them that guide. Give them the tools to make friends in your community, and they will have the tools to make friends online for the rest of their lives. And they can walk away saying that being in your community is that's one of the benefits they got, is it was also a place where they learned how to make friends IRL through a URL. So, all right, proximity, we did that. Last but certainly not least, the last seed of connection is commitment. Have you ever been at a gathering or an event or a conference where you just see a sea of people and you don't really know who to talk to because you're not really sure who else wants the same thing you're looking for? Yeah? Because sometimes you go into a conference and some people want to talk about work, and some people are actually just there to make friends, and some people just came for like the free snacks and the swag. And there's no way to know who wants what, because all you see is a big room of people. There's a lot of ambiguity there. And the same is true in our online communities. The same is true in real life. The same is true if you're like trying to date and there's like all these people and you're like, I don't even know who's single. I don't even know who's looking, right? So one thing that you can do is to reduce the ambiguity of who is here to get XYZ out of the community. Earlier, I used a term called affordances. My background is in user experience design, and affordances are characteristics that help a person know how a thing is supposed to be used. If you've ever approached a doorway and you weren't sure if you should like push it or pull it, it's because the door lacked an affordance. An affordance makes the right action intuitive, and it makes it easy. You don't even have to think about it. You push right through. So see how you can provide more affordances to the folks in your community, because they will be wondering, who do I reach out to? How do I know who wants what and who just came for the snack? Commitment is easier when it feels safe, and it feels safe when the path is really, really clear. There's other ways that you can foster commitment. So one of them is getting and giving help. So I saw, I think in the workshop slide that was there earlier, it's like the time to solution. If somebody asks a question and they get help really quickly, it's a moment where they build trust. If somebody asks a question and they're able to help that other person, it feels really good to give somebody else help. So that's a way to foster commitment within the community. Similarly, giving and receiving appreciation builds psychological safety, and it also lets them know, like, you matter here, and it's safe to express that other people matter to you as well. You know, it's not cheesy, it's actually a part of our culture. Another thing that will help build commitment is vulnerability. When you do something vulnerable and you receive empathy and you receive some acceptance, it feels really good. Earlier when I said I released my book in January 2020, and some of you went, oh. Like, I felt the empathy. I was like, yeah, I know, that sucked. Like, that was really hard for me. And so, you know, getting that empathy, even if it's just a little bit, feeling that sense of understanding is something that makes it feel okay to say something vulnerable or to say something was hard. And it's a way that we build commitment with each other because it shows that we care. Another thing is creative collaboration. Anytime that we create something together, we will feel closer to each other. The same is true if we improve something that already exists together. So it could be a process, it could be a table, it could be applications process, feedback as well. In the previous talk, someone talked about getting feedback. When they give feedback and they see that it actually is applied and it makes something better, it builds commitment. And those are all forms of some kind of creative collaboration. And last but not least is cross-pollination, when we learn together, sharing our ideas, contributing our ideas, and feeling valued for that. Those are all things that build commitment. And as you can see, there's a lot of ands here because there's a reciprocal nature to many of these things. Something a lot of folks say in their friendship frustration is that, well, it doesn't feel reciprocal. But when they do these things and they see that it's a process within the community, that everyone's doing it together, it builds that feeling of reciprocity. I'm going to wrap up soon because I'm almost out of time. The last thing I want to say here is that your community is a little bit of bean soup. If you don't know what I'm referring to here, does anyone know what this is about? No, okay. So a while ago, a very lovely internet person called Vibing Granola Mom posted a recipe on the internet, and she was like, hey, here's a bean soup. It's got like a million different kinds of beans in it. It's a great way to get iron. And unfortunately, what happened is a lot of people on the internet replied to her with stuff like this. They were like, I don't even like beans. Why would I want to eat beans? I'm allergic to beans. What can I substitute for the beans? Why would I eat soup? Like, just stupid stuff. And it's like the internet will do this kind of thing because unfortunately, even when people share something with the greatest intentions, some folks have lived inside their filter bubble for so long that they think everything is supposed to be customized to them personally. And why would I see a bean soup recipe? My internet is just for me. And they might think that about your community. And it's easier to moderate a space if the right people join, the people who want to eat the beans, and the people who hate beans don't join. And so don't be afraid to make it easy for people to see before they join if this is the right space for you. You can say, this is for you if check, 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 check. This is not for you if check, 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 check. And let them opt out of a thing that might not be for them before they join, because it's easier to not start something than to have to break up. Okay, as we wrap up, I want to encourage you to embrace your role as a Connection Concierge. It may not have been in your job description in those words, but it is definitely a part of the job. And we owe our people, I love that someone said earlier, we owe our people everything. Yes, we owe our people to not have to figure it out by themselves and to walk away from a community coming to me saying, I'm in these communities, but I'm not making friends there. I know that none of you wants your people to feel lonely or wants your people to feel like it's a struggle to connect in your space. And so think about how you can apply those seeds of connection to make it easy for them to make friends and to make it easy for them to love your community. And as you do that, I want you to know that they will be practicing not only the skills of learning how to make friends in your space, but they'll be learning how to make better friendships overall. And so will you. So I hope that works. Let me know how it goes. I hope to see you at the book signing. We'll be out there at 5 o'clock. And thank you for what you do to bring more people and more connection into the world.